At airports across the country, there is confusion and uncertainty after a federal judge overturned the federal transportation mask mandate this week. Now, the Biden administration is challenging the rule, but in the meantime, a patchwork of different rules is forming from coast to coast. Perhaps no one is affected by all of this more than America's flight attendants. Joining us now is Sara Nelson. She is the president of the Association of Flight Attendants. Hi, Sara. So how are flight attendants reacting to this news?
Well, I'll tell you, the immediate reaction was a lot of relief that we no longer need to enforce this with passengers who have been very combative for a long time, and has made our lives really hard. And there are some who are not looking forward to going into a summer wearing a mask for 14, 15, 16-hour days. But let me be real here, too. The masks were put in place in order to stem the spread of this pandemic. It was a health measure, and it was also a public confidence and safety measure. And the general public is generally supportive of the mask mandate in transportation. So removing the mask mandate doesn't really necessarily change that conflict on board, because there are people who really want to see that there. And flight attendants are still going to have to manage these interactions between passengers.
Right, and I imagine there are some flight attendants who, as you sort of alluded to, might be concerned about the potential health implications if people aren't wearing the mask. I mean, you know, everyone has their own view.
We have people who are immunocompromised, just like the public, and who have children at home or grandchildren that they don't want to bring that home to, who have not been able to get vaccinated. So we're hearing from everyone from all sides of this. And what's been unfortunate is that this was made out to be a political issue instead of a public health issue. So I want to be very clear. There's a sigh of relief, certainly after 2 years, but it doesn't end the conflict and also the confusion with all these different policies. It was also very difficult that this came down for some people in the middle of a flight, so that people didn't know what the rules were. They signed up for a certain number of rules when they got on the flight, and it changed mid-flight where they cannot walk away. The public got a real taste of what it's like for flight attendants every day working when we have problems on board, and you can't just pull over or walk away, or you have to deal with those issues right there, and that can be very uncomfortable.
Let's talk about that a little bit more, because we have a clip of some of what flight attendants have had to deal with during this pandemic.
How dare you shovel? That pillow dragged it on my nose. Made me wait 4 hours for this flight.
We've seen many cases where adult passengers are acting like petulant children. Flight attendants then had to step in. I mean, they were put in a horrible situation. So, you know, you mentioned the relief that they don't have to enforce these rules anymore, but we know at this point, we know Delta, United, and American Airlines are saying they will restore flight privileges on a case-by-case basis for some passengers who were banned for not following mask rules. What do you make of this decision?
It's terrible timing, if nothing else, Pamela. We're still in the middle of this pandemic. This is an announcement that just came too soon. There is, as you noted, still an appeal on this mask policy. This is still up in the air. And to send the message that someone can come back who had willfully broken the rules puts flight attendants in a very difficult position, because we feel like the airlines don't have our backs here. We're not saying that these people can never come back and fly again, but to be so eager on the trigger to say that some people can come back, it's really in conflict with what the FAA acting administrator did on the exact same day. He announced that the FAA zero tolerance for acting out on a plane, being disruptive, being violent, will not be allowed to go on, not be allowed to go on without severe consequence. And we really need to be very clear with people, because a lot of these events have nothing to do with masks at all. It has been about people acting out. Everybody is stressed to the max, and we have had to bear the brunt of that. So there's a lot still here to deal with, and it was not helpful that the airlines made that announcement. We need them to talk with us first. American Airlines has agreed to do that, certainly, and they're holding off while this appeal is taking place, and we hope that the other airlines will fall in line as well. But we were really not happy with that announcement.
And you've asked the other airlines to talk with you, and they haven't responded yet?
We're working on that.
Okay.
And so we're continuing to deal with that. But the announcement that got out there was that people are going to be able to come back. Now, some have said on a case-by-case basis. My point really here is that we have rushed too quickly to make these changes. And we all have to take a moment here, get back to good public policy that's put in place where all stakeholders are involved. Everyone knows what's happening. It's communicated well to all the people who have to enforce it and to the public, and we all get along much better that way. Continuing to operate this way is going to create more and more conflict for the people on the front lines, flight attendants, gate agents, people in retail, everywhere. So we all just need to get back to good policy making.
In other words, flight attendants were blindsided when these airlines came out and said, hey, we're going to reinstall some of these people who were banned because of the way they acted with the masks. And it is interesting, too, that this is being appealed by the administration. So there is that chance that the mask mandate could be put back into effect depending on what the courts rule. So we'll be following this. Sara Nelson.
The administration, thank you, they did not ask for a stay. They asked for an appeal, and this is really about the authority of the healthcare professionals. And so we do need that to stay in place. We asked people to put on masks before this pandemic to stop the spread of communicable disease. We need to get back to some order here, and I think that's what the administration is trying to do.
All right, Sara Nelson, thank you so much. We'll be right back.